I went out to Hollywood with Batman in my pocket because I knew this was going to be a slam dunk. All the studios were going to line up at my doorstep. How could they not? How could they not see the potential for sequels and animation and toys and games and merchandising? I was turned down by every single studio in Hollywood. And that's an understatement. I was told by every studio in Hollywood when I knocked on their doors that this was the worst idea they ever heard. I was told by all of them I was out of my mind. Michael, you're crazy. You can't do serious comic book movies. Michael, you're nuts. You can't do dark and serious superheroes. Michael, you're out of your mind. You cannot possibly take an old television series and make a movie based on that. Nobody's ever done that before. And my two favorite rejections of the pile that I received first came from Columbia Pictures. I went in and I pitched my heart out to this guy, very dapper, silver-haired gent. And he listened to me, and then he just shook his head, gave me a tisk-tisk, and said, Michael, you're nuts. Batman will never succeed as a movie because our movie, Annie, didn't do well. I said, wait a minute, are you talking about the little red-headed girl who sings Tomorrow? He said, yeah. I go, what does that have to do with Batman? He says, oh, come on, Michael, they're both out of the funny pages. And that was my rejection at Columbia. At my alma mater at United Artists, the guy there who turned me down, every other word out of his mouth all the time was a curse word, so I'll give you every other word of my rejection. He says, Michael, you're crazy. Batman and Robin will never work as a movie because the movie Robin and Marion didn't do well. Now, Robin and Marion was a 1979 movie starring Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn as an aging Robin Hood and Maid Marian. Hollywood. I just picked up my stuff. I didn't say a word. I turned around and I walked out of the room. But I'll tell you, for the next 10 years, I occasionally would go to sit on the top of a mountain and sit in the lotus position and ponder what this guy told me. I could only conclude that he had passed on Batman because both of these things had the word Robin in the title. There is no other nexus possible. I thought it was going to be a slam dunk, and instead, it became a human endurance contest. From the time I bought the rights to Batman till we got the first movie made, took 10 years. 10 years. 10 years of having my back up against the wall. 10 years of not knowing where my next dollar was coming from. 10 years of everybody telling me that my ideas stunk, my work stunk, and that this was awful. To the point where you want to talk about testing your mettle, where you really have to look deep inside yourself, when everyone says you're crazy. Am I sure about this? Yes, I kept coming up with the same thing. I believed in myself. I believed in my work, and I held on by my fingertips. 1986, a little miracle happened in the form of a brilliant young filmmaker named Tim Burton. Tim Burton came into our lives courtesy of Warner Brothers. They said, you gotta see this movie, and they showed us the fine cut of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I saw the movie, I said, I have never seen such a creative marriage of direction and art direction in my life. And they said, you gotta meet this guy. They set up 3 lunches for me with Tim Burton. And at the end of that third lunch, I knew we had a director who could make a dark and serious, innovative vision of Batman come to life. He is a genius. He really, truly is a genius. And working with him was another genius, a dear friend of mine who's no longer with us. Anton Furst was the production designer on our first Batman movie. The script came in from Sam Hamm with one line describing Gotham City. It says, Gotham City as if hell has erupted from under the earth. And Anton said, Tim, what does that mean? Tim said, well, I think it means New York City had there never been any planning and zoning. Anton says, I get it. So he goes off, researches conflicting styles of architecture, comes back with the drawings of all of Gotham City, the Batmobile designs, everything that made that picture so unique, and then would win for Anton the Oscar that year for Best Production Design. It was incredible. There was one guy I believed could be the only actor who could play the Joker. I opened up a newspaper around Memorial Weekend of 1980 as I got on a bus to head back to New Jersey, and I opened it up and I saw there was a movie called The Shining opening up. And there in the New York Post was this picture of Jack Nicholson peering around an opening, and he had this insane maniacal look. It's the famous iconic Here's Johnny shot. If you've never seen it, it's worth seeing.
Yeah.
I go, oh my God, look at this. Look at Nicholson. I tore out the picture. When I got home, I went to my desk, I took whiteout, and I whited out Jack's face. And I took a red pen and I did his lips up. And with magic marker, I did his hair, and I used that and showed it to everyone as to why Jack Nicholson is the only actor who would play the Joker. And by the way, I save everything, and I'm a comic book collector. So that picture I actually reproduced in my book, The Boy Who Loved Batman. If you come out later when I'm signing and if you want to talk to me one-on-one, I will actually show you that picture in the book. Anyway, I was so excited when Nicholson was hired. To me, that was the be-all and end-all. It was going to give us instant credibility. And then about 10 days later, the shoe dropped. I get a call from one of the executives. He said, so Michael, what do you think of Tim's new idea to have Michael Keaton play Batman? I go, well, great. I've been working on a serious and dark Batman movie for 8 years. Let's hire a comedian to play him. Why not? I thought it was a joke. I said, yeah, I can see the poster now. Mr. Mom is Batman. That's going to be really a good one. It took them almost a half an hour to convince me this was real. I was apoplectic. All my hopes and dreams were going right down the drain until Tim Burton, with his vision, straightened me out. He says, Michael, you do agree that since Nicholson was hired, we can't have an unknown actor play Batman. I said, of course not. Nicholson will wipe the screen with the guy. He says, all right, I don't know today how to show one of our serious actors. Around that time, you're talking Dennis Quaid, Harrison Ford, Kevin Costner. I don't know how to show a serious actor getting into a bat costume without getting unintentional laughs from the audience. I don't know how to do that. And here we're going to try to make the first ever serious comic book superhero movie. He said, but I'm telling you, with Michael Keaton, I can create a portrayal of Bruce Wayne that they will believe in. And he says, you know, the truth here, as we go from one medium, comic books, to the movies, if we want this to be taken seriously, it's all about Bruce Wayne, it's not about Batman. We've got to convince them that Bruce Wayne is a guy so driven, so obsessed to the point of being psychotic, that audiences will go, oh yeah, that is a guy who will get dressed up as a bat and go out and fight a guy like the Joker. He said, and that's only going to work if from the opening frames of the movie, we absolutely get them to believe in Gotham City. And Gotham City's got to be the third most important character in this movie. Well, I said, but wait a minute. Michael Keaton is like my height. He doesn't have the muscles, and he doesn't have the square jaw that Batman has. He says, going from one medium to another, it is not a square jaw that makes Batman. It is all about convincing them that Bruce Wayne could be real. He said, I can carve musculature into a costume, I can cheat height, but Michael Keaton will deliver on this. And he was absolutely right. That first movie came out in the summer of 1989. It was a humongous box office hit. It was impacting the world culturally. No one had ever seen it before. You couldn't walk through Times Square that summer, 25 steps, without seeing somebody wearing a Batman t-shirt or a Batman hat. It was a brilliantly marketed film, maybe the best ever marketed film, where you had posters that didn't even have the name of the movie on it. Just a gold oval with a black bat, and everyone knew what that was. Except, market research said, 13% of the people saw the reverse image. They saw a mouth with an open mouth with tonsils and teeth. It was bizarre. But that 13% turned out to be dental hygienist services.